No.
Okay, thank you all for coming out. Really appreciate it. Today we have Joe Murgo. He's the chief meteorologist at WTAJ, and he does teach meteorology 3 and DSU Altona.
Yeah, 3 and 5. So yeah. So yeah, thank you everyone. Yeah, I am a graduate here. Back in my days, boy, the Weather Center looked a lot different. You guys have a nice little home up here now, so you should appreciate it. I didn't do too much preparation for today, so I'm going to do some things off the cuff. I really enjoyed Paul Knight's talk last year. Usually I give a little insight to my winter cast. I'm kind of still formulating, so I have some things to talk about on that line, but I also want to just talk about the current weather, which to me, other than if you are Noah, it's not too exciting here. He's excited about the snow out there. I wanted to start off with the visible, just because it stood out to me as we were riding up in the car. Actually, I taught this morning. I didn't have too much time to look at the weather, but I looked at it and I'm like, wow, there's some nice shadowing on the clouds there. Do you see that this morning on the visible picture? You know, clouds from underneath today, I doubt you pull and say they're good looking. But on top, they were pretty good looking with the shadowing on it. You know, now that we have the low sun angle, you sometimes we'll get some good shadowing on clouds. We do have a front that is approaching from the west, and we have the dreaded E in our wind direction. If you catch me on the air, I always talk about it. Easterly is just not a good wind flow for good weather in central Pennsylvania. We did have a wintry mix in the northern part of our viewing area. Earlier in the morning hours still, we did have, let me see, hopefully this is loading, there we go. And now we just have some plain rain, but it's a chilly rain. Heaviest in my counties up in the northern part of the state. We have kind of the warm front and the warm advection precipitation, which is now shifted on into New England. Northern New England, Killington opened up this past week. I'm sure they're appreciating some of this weather. Let me just tell you, snowflakes for a ski resort this early in the season, it's eye candy, gets people talking, gets excitement, gets season tickets sold. And again, New England, they're having snow out there, a decent snow, not really too early for that. We do have another band of showers that is off to our west with the cold front, which the last line of showers is going to probably be this one, and it may fill in a little bit more for the Youngstown area. Let's go ahead and take a look. Let me zoom in a little bit at our surface map. Sorry, I don't have the prettiest maps. I was moving with speed today. But you can notice that the front here on the latest surface map extends from the low that is pretty close to Lake Erie, extends back into Ohio, which is the reason why I do think that second line is probably going to fill in some with that. One thing I have noticed is sometimes people will tend to rush fronts through, especially when you get a gelatinous colder air mass behind it. The trough in the isobars shows up pretty nicely. Your wind switch from southwest to more westerly. Still, it's through Columbus, but the front is still a good bit off. Technically, a warm front, not really through here yet. The bulk of the warm advection is already through, but the warm front's not through here. We still have an easterly component of the wind, and we really do need that to switch before we get out of the woods. Now, here is the HRRR little GIF was showing that second band of showers going to move through. For some reasons, in Blair County, they never have trick-or-treat on Halloween. It's always the Thursday before. Early on, I do think there's still going to be some showers, and it's going to become windy. It's not the best trick-or-treat night. And believe it or not, it's Thursday before Halloween, only one exception. If Halloween is on a Thursday, they move it to a different day. Yeah, all right. But anyway, hopefully someone will watch on YouTube and catch my rant on that one. I'll share it on my Facebook post. All right, so here we go. I grabbed the GFS. You know, one thing to keep in mind, it's hard to find the warm front on just the isobars in a model. Keep in mind, if you have an easterly component of the winds, and you have mild air in western Pennsylvania, that usually rides right up. It's hard to get that front through. The warm front, I think really what's going to kick us out is when the winds go westerly. The cold front not through until, and again, be careful on rushing a front through. To me, at 0Z, the front is still back a good bit, almost with the thickness lines here. You may sit there and go, well, yeah, but it looks like the trough is farther to the east. But keep in mind, when the winds do go westerly, the downsloping effect does tend to cause a kink in the isobars, because if the winds go westerly, ideal gas law, you're going to have, first of all, you're going to have compression. The air is going to sink off in the mountains into eastern Pennsylvania. Ideal gas law means that the pressures will lower. And often you'll have a trough on the models farther to the east, and the front is actually through. But it will move through later on this evening. We have a chillier air mass, thicknesses dropping down to 533. And, you know, can later tonight, some places get a little flurry, northwestern Pennsylvania and the Laurel Highlands, yes. Nothing to write home about, but whenever you get, and you know, I can go in and I can show you 700 millibars in different flows, but I'll give you a rough, I love giving little tips and hints to save you time in forecasting. Do you see the high? Do you see how nice and round it is there in Kentucky on the western side of it? Do you see how flat it is on the eastern side of it? That usually, I mean, usually when you get a chilly air mass moving over the Great Lakes, and the Great Lakes does dent it because, again, warmer source, we're going to have some clouds on the backside of it and a flurry in some spots. But that high should move on in. It will be chilly with light winds for tomorrow night, and we'll take a look at temperatures here in a second. And with the high passing to your south, don't hesitate in warming things up. It will warm, and it's going to warm quickly. And I'm going to show you an example of some temperatures and how warm the air is in the middle of the United States. So the high sinks to the south, Saturday, windy, warm. Why couldn't this be the Penn State game? Well, we'll take it. Even though it was a bit damp and rainy at times, we'll take the victory over Ohio State no matter what. I posed with a victory bell ahead of time to taunt my friends from Ohio State, said I'm ready to bring it. So now I'm going to have to go down to the victory bell before every home game until that tradition breaks. It's my good luck charm. Yes, I'm superstitious when it comes to sports. Anyway, Saturday is going to be really warm. There is a front that is going to be sinking down on Sunday. But most of Sunday, we have a westerly flow. It's going to be a pretty warm day. We'll have some showers with that front that moves on through. High to the north tends to, you know, I always say highs to the south tend to warm up really quickly. Highs to the north, we tend to get a little cooler than you think. It may linger a little bit. And again, I'm showing you one map, and I'm inferring some things off of a single map. Pressures are higher to the north. And if you look, even without the winds, I mean, you just eyeball off the isobars. And I like simplifying maps sometimes. Winds are more southeasterly or southeasterly. So Monday of next week, the warm-up's not going to be that quick. You need the winds to go westerly. Don't worry. They will next week. And we're going to go right back into a mild pattern until a pattern switch, which is one of the extra things I'm going to be talking about. Let's go ahead and take a look at temperatures, 2-meter temperatures. And let me go a little closer in on this. And giving away the good stuff, you know, for those of you who like nice weather. So behind the front, tonight is going to be a chilly night. If you noticed, it could be colder this time of the year, and one of the reasons why it doesn't get totally colder is the breeze stays up, and I do think we have some clouds. And tomorrow starts cool, and it'll be interesting. You know, you can see a 50 there in Blair County. Here we're in the upper 40s in Center County. There is a breeze, so the cool shot's going to come in. It's going to be sharp. There's going to be a cool wind early tomorrow. but we should warm up on the back side of it. And here we go on Sunday. I'm sorry, I want to go to Saturday first. Saturday, how about that? Too far for you to read. 68 in Center County there at State College. Altona Blair County Airport, 70. Westerly wind is going to be a wind. I'd say it's going to be good leaf peeping weather, but this year has been the disappointment for the leaves, and the wind's really stripping off a lot of it. So we have a mild weather pattern. Another front moves through early next week, and I said, oh, Monday, be careful. That's a sneaky, not going to warm up a lot on Monday. And you look, this is 18 Zulu in the 50s. I mean, that's not bad. Cool off really quickly Monday night. So Monday's not going to be that warm a day. We have to wait until the winds become more westerly. And let's get a good one in here. Next Wednesday, set your tea times. Back into the low 70s. So we're in a warm weather pattern. You know, how long the warm weather patterns last? Overall, I think we're going to trend to milder. I mean, it is now going to be early November, at that point in time. So, you know, a mild weather pattern is not warm. You'll still need a jacket at night. The days are getting shorter. But there is a lot of warmth in the United States. I like this on Weather Bell. It's a quick look at the NDFD temperatures. What it does, though, is it circles the grid points where record highs are going to be set. There's a lot of warmth. So there's a lot of warmth that we can tap over the next 7 days. So when in doubt, you know, other than when we have an easterly flow like this, when in doubt, you know, go for warm. Now, let me go ahead and show you here. I meant to show this even a little earlier. Here is pivotal weather. This is the forecast is sounding here for UNV. I know a lot of you would love to just get these clouds out of here. The hint to you from me, from experience in forecasting around here, don't do it until the winds go westerly. And even at this point in time, I'm at the 9 hour. And so this is 21 Zulu this afternoon. If you would argue, we're still socked in. Look at the surface winds, straight south. 12 Zulu. I expect, 0 Zulu for tonight. Winds go westerly. Temperature may actually hit its high once that front moves through out of the west this evening. Still have a lot of moisture early tonight. Westerly wind. You're starting to see a little separation middle of the night. Late tonight, a little more separation. And then let's go to midday for tomorrow. Westerly winds. It's going to be a chilly wind. Has some high clouds, but you see how the bottom layers do dry out once the winds go westerly. So that is the key I have for clearing it out. All right, now, pattern change. I was hinting a little bit at it. I'm jumping all over the place. Let me just reload this page because more was coming in. You know, a very interesting thing, if some of you follow the long-range bloggers, and I am not a long-range guru, but I'm learning more. Dr. Judah Cohn's, his weekly Arctic summary. Anyone in here read it religiously? Good. If you really want to, I mean, that is a fabulous resource. If you want to learn about long-term weather, you just have to keep up and you have to read and learn different things. And there are some things that Dr. Judah Cohn has studied. And what we're looking at here, I have the, I want to even go up. Let me see if I can get to the 30 millibar. All right, so we're at the 30 millibar, you know, level. When you get higher, and you know, stratosphere warms, and you get higher heights at 30 millibars, usually what that does is it then just discharges cold air more to the mid latitudes. And Dr. Judah Cohen has really done some research that not too long after we get a sudden stratospheric warming, it gets translated down the road to a cold spell in the mid-latitudes. And I want you to see here, and models of this are in a lot of agreement here. Here is Saturday evening. Look at the polar vortex split that is going on. For the end of October, that's impressive. That really is. And what I do think is that's going to translate to a pattern change a little bit down the road, especially for middle of October, because watch what happens then down the road. We'll start making a link up, and what will happen is we'll get a transference of cold air and building of cold air and movement of cold air from Siberia on into the United States. Now, is that a pattern that's going to stay? No, actually, and the last run, and I do not know how to call up the last run very easily on this. I will tell you the polar vortex, then it splits out, comes back together on last night's run. So I do think a pattern change is coming. I'm not going to say with certainty how long it is going to stay. In Malzovers, you love them, but you hate them. I'll get there. All right, anyway, I'm going to avoid. So the Arctic oscillation is pretty neutral. It's been positive. With that split, and a lot of times after you have a sudden stratospheric warming event, the Arctic oscillation does go negative, which then means we have more in the way of movement of cold air in the mid-latitudes. And if you notice, the European does take it negative. Doesn't stay strongly negative. Let me try to flirt. Doesn't stay strongly negative forever, but it does go down. So I do think, what we're going to see in the short term in the Arctic, up toward the stratosphere is going to translate into a colder spell, but I'm not ready to sit there and say, that's it, winter's here to stay. The NAO, positive now, trends negative. So, it does support once we get into early middle of November. So let me go back. The Arctic oscillation, I do think once we get into the second week here, we're going to start to see cold air move into the United States. I do think it may be quicker than mid-November than a lot of people are saying. I'm seeing signs it could be a little bit quicker, but it's coming. I do think, and you see the NAO trending back up, I think we may have a real sharp push of cold air. I'm just not sure how long it's going to stay. The PNA, let me get over, again, love my mouse overs, hate them at the same time. The PNA, strongly positive here in early November, which then does suggest a trough is coming to the eastern United States, big ridge in the west. So we do have a pattern switch. I'm not ready to declare that winter is starting, but for some folks it will be a shock to the system. All right, little tidbits. I'm a climate nut. In a little time I'll talk about some of the things I look at in my winter forecast is to sit there and look, and I always look to the Arctic for some things that may translate into my winter forecast. And one of the things that I wanted to point out really quickly, and the reason why I'm doing this, a lot of folks will talk about analogs for the winter forecast. I'm saying there aren't many analogs. And one of the reasons why is that we're in some uncharted territory. If you want to sit there and go back and say, all right, a lot of things look the same as 95, 96. Well, there are some differences, because 95, 96 aren't on this chart, but they would be way up to the top. The red line is the 2016 Arctic sea ice extent. It for a while was running at a record fast pace of melting early or late spring, early summer, and then it fell shy of break in 2012, which was an amazing year. But one thing look at how slow it's growing this year. We're not going to have a tremendous amount of sea ice, and I do not know, and I always am trying to study. In certain areas, Dr. Judah Cohen has said there is correlation to the growth of the Eurasian snowpack, which in Siberia is a great source region for a lot of cold. But, you know, it's all over the place with the sea ice. And the Arctic this fall, one of the reasons why it's not growing as fast, take a look at the red line is the Arctic temperature. The green line is the average, way above average. We were starting to get a little closer, and then we're going back up again. And given what I'm seeing coming up in the Arctic, what I showed you, yeah, it's gonna go up again. The Antarctic sea ice, you want to sit there and go, all right, well, the Antarctic. Before we were having record lows with the Arctic, and the Antarctic was running really high. Look at 2014, record maximum. All right, now we're below and melting off at a faster pace too. So that's something I just was throwing a little tidbit for. They're both behind the game for the first time that I can remember. In a long time, they're both behind the game. All right, as for the Rutgers Snow Lab snow growth, Eurasia is, we're getting a positive anomaly where you see the blue there in parts of Asia. North America is running ahead of where it was last year. I'm taking that into account. The bottom blue line is average. This is northern hemisphere snow cover extent. I'm seeing it above average. They'll start to cut, and the second blue line is one standard deviation above average. So it grew fast in the northern hemisphere this fall. And to me, I have found a direct correlation to winter and the growth, because the more snow you put out there, the more albedo in farther south areas, and the better you can radiate out some energy out to space. And there's a correlation between snow cover and temperatures. As for North America itself, again, grew pretty fast. You get the Canadian plains, again, I've done a lot of research for my wintercast in the past. You get a lot of snow in the Canadian plains. Early season, you can get some early season snow outbreaks. You get that down into the northern plains of the United States, then you get air masses moving our way. They tend to be colder, and it's a positive feedback for colder air for the winter. And then it takes a while to break it. So that's something that I'm watching. As for Eurasia, it really was growing fast, starting to slow off a little bit. We're going to see after the stratospheric warming how it grows. One of the reasons why my winter cast doesn't come out to November, because I also look at water temperatures. Water temperatures between this year and last year. This year is to your left-hand side. And yeah, we have a little ribbon of a little below average temperatures. Still have warmth in the Gulf of Alaska, though compared to last year, which is the right-hand side, we have this new pool of cool growing, much cooler compared to last year along the west coast. North Atlantic still cool, off the coastline still warm. I wanted to see how some of the runoff would do, and that's going to be something to watch. Maybe NOAA can get a couple of more nor'easters up from New England. All right, so that's the difference between this year and last year. There's 2014. We had some cool there. We had the warm in the Gulf of Alaska, but off the coast of the United States, western United States, not as much. And we had a little El Nino, so not a lot of similarities there. 2013, a lot of people are making correlations. Had a little, weak El Nino, more out toward the central Pacific, kind of there. Cool pool, though this year it's much cooler off of Greenland, and a lot of melt this year. That does affect it. Warm off the East Coast, not the same there. Not the same for 2012. It's very hard to come out. 2012 was really cold off of the Gulf of Alaska, and same for 2011. 2010, something I'm watching. The Gulf of Alaska was much cooler, but some other similarities are there for me. Then I'm keeping an eye on for some of the ENSO numbers, the PDO and the AMO. So sea surface temperatures are something that we're looking at, but the one thing, the wild card that you can't go off total with analogs is we're in uncharted territories. So you have to keep that in mind. You're going to see a lot of people putting out winter forecasts, including myself, because I have to, and I enjoy doing it some. But if you remember last year at this time, I talked about the fire hose that I thought was going to be coming to the West Coast that would actually kind of flood milder air at times into the eastern United States. The warm water off the East Coast sets you prime for a storm. And boy, a lot of us had a storm. Not here in State College as much, but Altona, we got 20 inches. You missed the snow. You just had to come on down. It was pretty good. And then DC, where my car was stuck for 2.5 weeks because I was out in Colorado. I had to fly straight back to Altona for the storm. It was a good storm down there. So when you get warm water off the East Coast, which we do have, you set the stage for storminess. You get more. But this year, I'm just not sure where the position of the cold air is going to be. I think there's potential for a lot of cold air. I'm not sure if it's going to be more in the plains and we go back and we have more sloppy winters, sloppier of a winter or not. So that's the one thing I'm looking at. Still really early. All right, I rambled a lot of things. I know we're running out of time. Any quick questions? I was worried about filling time, but I always talk too long. Anything about the current weather or other things I showed you for today? No? No?
Busting the drought in New England, you think with the warm temperatures and more weak La Nina, we can get some rain in the Northeast? The drought is?
It should help. I mean, it increases snowiness, and it's going to increase the storm potential. Depends on where the actual storm track is. If it's farther inland, you may not get a lot. Maybe translated more to the west, but definitely you're going to put a dent into it. This is not something you can erase really quickly. And winter's not the time to erase a drought, really. You can plant the seeds of pulling out of the drought. You can plant the seeds to go into a drought, but the amount of moisture that comes down in the winter months is still relatively small compared to your convection season. And they lost out on the convection season. Anything else? Yes?
Given how low Arctic sea ice is right now, and given how high the northern hemisphere snow cover is, would that in part be evidence for Dr. Cohen's theory that less sea ice generally promotes a more negative phase of the Arctic oscillation and therefore more snow cover?
Yes, it does. And if you read, I think he just put out a new one, I think yesterday. An interesting thing, he's not ready. You know what's interesting about Dr. Cohen? He's a brilliant mind. I just wish, I'd love to have lunch with him one time. He's not really sold that. He hasn't seen this polar vortex split like this. He doesn't know if we're going to discharge. If we discharge the cold air too early, clear the plate, we got to start it again. And he's not ready to, yes, it promotes the negative Arctic oscillation. Two things we don't know yet: where that discharge will be. Because there have been years with a strong negative Arctic oscillation, the cold air has been pushed into Europe, not here. Pushed into Asia, but not here. We don't know yet. And plus, are we going to clear the plate? Very interesting to see. Because you're in Eurasia, it can grow. But yes, it would promote. Low sea ice does promote the negative Arctic oscillation. It also promotes snow growth too. One other thing, you will hear, and an unnamed person who I hold a tremendous amount of respect for always talks about, and I was talking at the NWA meeting with a couple of climate scientists, and ever notice that recently the Arctic temperatures in the summer have not been very warm. It's been the winters. Well, there are a couple of reasons. It takes a heck of a lot less energy to raise something from -30 to -20. Heck of a lot less than it takes from going from 30 to 40. All right, so little energy changes make a difference. When you are in the summer, what's going on to the sea ice? It's melting. Remember your latent heat lessons? The more melting that happens, the more latent heat we're absorbing for that to happen. So you would expect, and I brought this up, and they were like, yeah, that does put a little dent. It's a little dent, but it's a dent there. In the summer, if you're melting the ice, it's really hard to get well above your average temperature above freezing. You can still melt a heck of a lot without it getting too warm. And in the winter, again, maybe one of the reasons we're really low right now, the freezing process is going to slow it down more because freezing releases that latent heat zone. Thanks for asking that. I'm a geek when it comes to the Arctic. I'm on TV and I talk about the local weather, but I am a geek about that. Anything else? Because I'm holding you late. I know that.
Any last questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys, for joining.
Next week we'll have Ben Reppert from
I do guess.